All right, so yesterday we were talking about our different types of sentences. We talked about subject and verb. We talked about ways in which we can make sure we have full, complete sentences versus fragments. And today we need to make sure that we talk about other parts of sentences, things that matter when we actually write. And so the first one, this is a good reminder about our coordinating conjunctions. So when we put in a comma and then a joining word, meaning that two sentences need to be put together. And so we would use one of our fanboys. So of course we have fanboy stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And what and means? It means in addition to or along with. But means however, except, on the other hand, or just the opposite. So if you're thinking, you know what, I don't really know which fanboys to use, but on the other hand, oh, that would fit in. That makes more sense than just having the word but. And then the word for, because, the reason that, the cause of something. So with for, many of you have wanted to insert the word because into a sentence. So putting those two sentences together yesterday for our review, many of you said, you know what, if I take out this comma and add in the word because, doesn't it make it full and complete? And it's not that it's incorrect, but a way you can do it better is by doing a comma for, and that makes it full complete, and for stands for because. For also stands the reason that, the cause of something. So stands for as a result and therefore. So these are just a few examples of how we could use fanboys and how we can link these two sentences together. All right, so yesterday we talked, and the day before we talked a little bit more about a semicolon and what a semicolon means. So a semicolon is a period above a comma. Just thinking about its actual physical characteristics, is a period above a comma, meaning it's sometimes called a strong comma in the sense that you have the first sentence, the period's there, and then the comma means I need to continue. A semicolon shows that these two sentences, they have a relationship, they belong together, and that they cannot be pulled apart. So I always think of a semicolon. I keep saying this is Romeo and Juliet, that they have a relationship, and obviously these two never separated in the story. So they belong together. Just like a semicolon, the two sentences on either side, they belong together. All right, I want you to pull out another piece of paper. I have a few more sentences for you to fix. So I want you to try. I'll give you about the next 5 to 7 minutes. Fix these sentences 1 through 5. All right, about 1 more minute to finish up. So looking at sentence number 1. When it says fix these sentences, what could we have fixed in sentence number 1 to make this correct? Yeah. All right, so where would we add a semicolon? All right, so some people have trouble with standardized tests, semicolon. The very idea of taking one makes them panic. Definitely correct. Number 2. What can we change to number 2? Pat retired at age 40. She had won $6 million in the state lottery. Yes, what do you think? All right, so Pat retired at age 40, comma, for she had won $6 million in the state lottery. Great. Something else for number 2? Yes.
But Pat, at the age of 40, retired because she had won $6 million in the state lottery.
All right, so instead of the comma 4, you put in the word because. So after 40. All right, that'd be a way to add them together. Number 3, the current was too strong. Byron decided not to risk crossing the river. What about for number 3? How could we make this a full and complete sentence? All right, the current was too strong, comma, so Byron decided not to risk crossing the river. That'd be great. Anything else for number 3? All right, you could also include a semicolon after the word strong. Definitely would make it a correct 2 sentences put together. Number 4, Tony never goes to a certain gas station anymore. He found out that the service manager overcharged him for a valve job. How could we fix and correct number 4? All right, we could do a semicolon where? All right, after any more. Tony never goes to a certain gas station anymore, semicolon. He found out that the service manager overcharged him for a valve job. Great. Anything else for number 4? All right, Tony never goes to a certain gas station anymore because he found out that the service manager overcharged him for a valve job. Works.
Do you have to put comma then if you're going to put one of those?
If you decide to use a fanboys, you need to put a comma before the word fanboys. Otherwise, if you use a subordinated conjunction, like the word because, the subordination does not need a comma before it. Just when it comes to for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Last one, number 5. The washer shook and banged with its unbalanced load. Then it began to walk across the floor. What does this sentence need?
A comma.
Where would we put a comma?
Before them.
Okay, but what do we then need after a comma? Right, we need to include a fanboys. So what one could we use for number 5? Okay. All right, so for one of the fanboys, what's the most likely that it would fit into the sentence if we used a coordinated conjunction? All right, and. So comma, and, then it began to walk across the floor. So this happened first, this happened second. Cause and effect.
If you use therefore, do you put like a semicolon and a comma after therefore?
Yes, if you're going to use therefore, I would definitely include the semicolon after the word load. And then you're saying therefore, comma, it began to walk across the floor. So instead of the word then, you include therefore. Yes, I do semicolon, therefore, comma. Any last questions? All right, great ways to fix these sentences. So what we just did with fixing sentences is we included coordinated conjunctions at the middle of the sentence, and some of you decided to use subordinating words in the middle of sentences. But one thing to think about is when you use subordination at the beginning. When you have subordination without a comma, this shows that one thought in a sentence is not as important as another. That's what a subordinating clause is. But when you include them without a comma, it makes it a full and complete fragment. Meaning, if I just said, although this part of the sentence is needed, it isn't as important as the main part. Because although starts off the sentence, if I didn't have that comma there, it would make it an entire fragment because it would make it a full dependent clause. When we include the comma and then it, we know that it isn't as important as the main part, is the independent clause we're looking for. That's the important part of the sentence. So we can put one of our subordinating conjunctions. So remembering after, although, as if, as long as. So all of those words can start a dependent clause. And then if we put in a comma after the dependent clause, we can then put in a full independent clause. So to show how that works. So in the middle of the screen, the D, comma, I, if you remember when I was talking about formulas yesterday, so we had the I, comma, CCI. This is another formula for a sentence. So D, comma, I means the I needs to be there so it's a full and complete sentence. The dependent clause comes first, we put in our comma, independent clause. So again, here's a list of common dependent words: after, although, as, because, before, even, though, if, since, unless, until, when, while. So just a short list of dependent words that lots of times you like to start sentences off with or start off some of your reasoning. And we can start dependent clauses with them. All right, have you ever heard the saying, it's mine's, it's mine's? Anyone?
No, I heard it's mine.
All right, so hopefully you are hearing it's mine. One thing to consider when we come to words and verbs are the changes in slang English. Have you ever heard slang being used?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My guess is that you're using slang in texting, emoticons, and it's used in everyday speech. But in writing in English, so when it comes to academic papers, standard forms are required. So if you ever put CUZ for cuz, that's considered slang and not formal academic English. So one thing when I was living in the South, people would always say, it's mines, give me mines back. And that was one part of slang that was more regional. And so that's just one word that we use. And we have to make sure that they're used correctly, so using the word mine instead of it's mines. Yes, sir?
So would be using abbreviations like LOL and stuff like that be considered slang?
Yes, abbreviations and acronyms like LOL or YOLO for YOLO. All that is considered slang, and it needs to be spelled out as full and complete words. So even though you know what the term is, it doesn't mean everyone does. So just thinking about your grandparents or parents using your computer, well, not your computer, but using the computer, the acronyms you would use aren't the same acronyms they would know and understand. So LOL, not everyone's going to know what that is, even though it's been around for quite a while. not every one of older generations are going to know. So we have to make sure we use full, complete words so everyone knows.
You would never write out loud on a paper.
No, you would not ever write laugh out loud in a paper. But thinking along those same, like if you put YOLO in, because you wanted to make your point about you only live once, just things like that would point out the instance.
What if you die and you die? This is a block of those.
All right, probably not the same instance. So just thinking about, we need to use standard English versus slang English in our papers. So just like yesterday, we talked about tenses are a major part of every writing assignment, big or small. So making sure that we talk in the same tense, we write in the same tense, they need to stay the same. So if you start your paper out that it happened in the present, you stay in present throughout. If it happened in the past, you stay in the past throughout. So thinking about your first day writing, if you wrote anything about your experiences or about your life, so if you talked about maybe your 16th birthday and the day you went driving, obviously it's already happened. That day has passed unless it's today. And my assumption is you wouldn't be doing schoolwork if you were out driving for the day. So it's past, and you need to make sure it stays in past. It doesn't switch to the present in any writing, any part of your paper. There is no reason to make it switch. So no matter what tense you start in, we stay in the same tense throughout the entire paper. So thinking about present tense, most tenses that we will consider, we're going to write in present tense. We're going to put our papers in present tense. Because they're happening right now, your ideas are flowing right now. And so when we put in present tense verbs, they will end with an S or an ES. So with regular verbs, I know that some of you will know or understand that there are irregular verbs. There are some types of verbs in which this form will change. But overall, when present tense, you are using S or ES. So he walks, she talks, it creeps. The student writes, the adorable son bounces, the car rambles. All of this is happening presently. So thinking of past tense, well, it happened yesterday or the day before. With past tense verbs, you have the ending of D or ED, and it's needed with a regular verb in the past tense. So past tense means, of course, it's already happened. And if you are ever wondering if your verb is correct, read it aloud. With your tenses, that's the best way you can figure out if your tense is incorrect, by just giving yourself a chance to read it out loud. And you can think about, did I say this as it already happened or it's currently happening? So here are some ideas for past tense verbs. I handed the test to the students. I've already done it. She wanted to go to the mall. Hopefully she's gone by now because it already happened. And they wondered if class was ever going to be over. Which some of you still may be wondering, but the wonder in this sentence has already happened because hopefully class is ended by this time. All right, one of your easiest verbs is the be verb, which also you might remember goes along with your helping. So the helping verbs, present tense, I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, you are, they are. So those are all putting it in present tense and past tense. I was, you were, he, she, it was, we were, you were, they were. So of course, be is one of the verbs that's irregular because of course the word changes from am, are, is, was, were. Those are all the be verb, but just different tenses. So of course, here are a few other examples. So we just went through the be. For present tense of become, then we have became, and the past participle is still become. So this is when we have irregular. And then we have drink, drank, drunk. Drive, drove, driven. Eat, ate, eaten. So eat is another irregular verb because of course the word changes from eat to ate. Fall, fell, fallen. Feed, fed, fed. Feel, felt, felt. Fight, fought, fought. Find, found, found. And of course, if you are ever wondering about tenses or what word you need to correctly use, one of the best places you can actually go to is the Purdue OWL, so the online writing and they can actually help you quite easily. So if you're ever writing on your own and you're really questioning what word you just put in because it's one of those I drink, I drank, I drunk, and you're trying to figure it out, go to the Purdue website, and it's a great place to help. All right, thinking about this one. Irregular verbs in negative forms like do cause problems in writing because you include the negative, but then you have to make sure that the verb changes with it as well. So which is correct? Is it A or B? All right, quick show of hands. How many think A? How many think B? All right, if you are saying B, B is the correct letter. He doesn't agree. Because you would say he does agree versus he do agree. If you take out the negative, it makes the tense correct. All right, subject-verb agreement. In all cases of writing, you need to make sure that your subjects and verbs, they do agree. So, well, what does this mean to agree? When we say that your subjects and verbs agree, that if your person, so your subject is one person, then the verb is plural. If you have two or more subjects, then the verb is singular. And it kind of switches it up. So thinking of it this way. So you have one subject, he, and then runs. So we add an S onto the end of the verb. So thinking about it this way. One way you can catch it. Say out loud, he run. And then say out loud, he runs. If you think about the subject and action, most of the time you can catch it by just saying it out loud. All right, verb before subject. A verb agrees with its subject even when the verb comes before the subject. So no matter where the verb is and no matter where the subject is, they still have to agree. So which words may precede the subject include there, here, and in questions, who, which, what, and where. So most of the time when you are including a question, your verb may come before. So where is the dessert? So dessert still needs to talk about is. And on the front gate was a note. Of course, we have the prepositional phrase. And then was, the verb, comes before note. Then we have the word compound subjects. These are subjects usually joined by and, generally take a plural verb because you have two things then joined. So when subjects are joined by either or, neither nor, not only but also, the verb agrees with the subject closer to the verb. Meaning, and makes it plural. These words, either or, neither nor, not only but also, it means that in a sense you're looking at singular verbs, so you go by the verb closest to the subject, or the subject closest to the verb. So if you had neither the class nor the teacher knew what time it was. So you're just thinking then about the teacher, even though I said class earlier, which was that's a plural. You're just looking at the teacher, which is singular. The teacher did not know what time it was. So, for today, for your exit card, what I would like you to do is write out one sentence correctly, put it at the bottom of the 5 sentences you corrected, get it turned in, and that means that you will be done today. So, with this one sentence, I want you to correctly write about how you are feeling about grammar in class this week. Put it at the bottom of your 5 sentences. If you are taking this class online, please turn this into infinity at this time.